Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Cybersecurity Hot Takes with Beyond Identity. You are joined today by me, your host, the Marketing Empress Reece Guida, and
Nelson Melo, founding engineer.
Fantastic. And Nelson, we have a special guest today. His name is Israel Gutierrez, and he is of A3Sec. Israel, tell us about yourself before we get into today's hot take.
Hello, thank you, Reece. Thank you, Nelson, for having me here. I am the CDO of my company, A3Sec, which is a cybersecurity consultant company based in Spain, Mexico, and Colombia. We are basically around the Hispanic space market, so in cybersecurity, and I am the CDO of the company.
Great. Thank you for that. And Israel, as you know, as a fan of this podcast, we come here to talk about hot takes, spicy things that people can have as a point of view in the cybersecurity that gets interesting and lively conversations going. And I know you came prepared today with a hot take, so why don't you tell us what it is so we can talk about it?
Well, I think the hot take is not enough people are thinking around security when they interact with other people or with other companies or applications in the internet. They don't have the enough awareness around cybersecurity.
So, I would agree generally, but then there are some populations or groups of people who I would argue shouldn't have to think about cybersecurity. Depends on certain kind of professions, right? Like doctors. My dad's a doctor. He is so burdened by the password resets and other security measures like MFA that requires a second device that his hospital has in place. It really weighs him down a lot. I also don't think children or students should have to worry about cybersecurity that much. I think my hot take is that systems should just be secure by default, and they should be as user-friendly as possible so that people don't have to worry about that. But I agree, cybersecurity should be more broadly aware and considered to be more important by more people. So, Nelson, where do you fall on that spectrum that Israel and I just laid out?
I was just chuckling when you said that, Reece, because Bruce Schneier famously has a talk he gives, and he gave it at RSA maybe last year or a couple of years ago, where he likes to quote a researcher, security research, that says something, and I'm going to butcher this, but something about if you want security to be effective, the best thing you can do is to hide it from your users, and they don't even know that it's happening. The more touch points you have actually makes things worse. And he has an interesting take on it, which is you can do that to an extent, and the more you complicate things, just trying to convolute yourself around creating security that's easy to use, that may actually have a negative side effect. But I think you're absolutely right.
If it's too complicated, you introduce user error, right? Because you're putting it on them to be aware. I know user awareness is a huge thing. In like a lot of companies are built just around that, especially when it comes to phishing, which is where I got my start in cybersecurity. So Israel, maybe you can speak to us a little bit about, cybersecurity culture specifically in Spain, Colombia. What do you think that it's different from the US in any way? Like what does the landscape there look like, and what kind of change are you trying to bring forth?
Okay, I think that the big important thing is about the culture, because we are in a space or in a countries who are very important the security culture in your physical space, because you don't have to trust anybody, because there is a lot of people who trying to hurt you or harm you or taking advantage of your information or your personal security. So in that set of mind, we need to start to see the cybersecurity in the digital space in the same way, because maybe you can create a lot of programs, super secure, highly secure, but when someone tells a user, give me your password, give me your double FMA, they will give me all your information, they are going to give you because they trust in other people. The basic of the trust maybe deliver not very secure space. So in the user awareness, maybe could be less trustful and be more keep in mind that maybe the other people or the other application in the computer in your mobile is not the person who is telling you that could be. So because in this type of countries, Spain, Latin America mainly, there is a lot of people who trying to harm you, and that's extrapolate to the digital world, and maybe that's why cybersecurity becomes more and easy to take in these type of countries. Maybe there is a difference within US or other parts of Europe. The people are more trustfully, right?
Yeah, you're saying trust a lot there, which of course makes me and probably the listeners as well think about zero trust as a concept. So one thing I've noticed, and listeners, if you disagree with me, please let me know. But I have a hypothesis that zero trust is more of a big deal in the United States than it is in Europe, right? We have mandates coming out from the government to have MFA, unphishable, phishing-resistant MFA, whatever you want to call it. For example, the New York Department of Financial Services has an MFA requirement that kind of plays into the whole zero trust notion. So, Nelson, I mean, you just went over to the United Kingdom to talk to a big potential customer there. Did zero trust come up at all? Do you agree or disagree with the statement that zero trust isn't as widespread outside of the US as a concept?
So interestingly, it didn't come up, Reece, and I hadn't thought about it until now, but the way I've heard folks in other countries sell our products and cybersecurity in general, you're right. It almost never uses zero trust as a concept. I think that's probably something that's starting to happen more in the US, and other countries may follow. But I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Israel? What do you have to say? Is zero trust a big concept in Spain, Mexico, Colombia?
Yes, it's kind of an important concept because that is I think is a base concept of cybersecurity and security itself in different spaces, because you need to keep trusting in everybody. You need to start trusting in giving all the access, all the credentials to everybody, to start doing more flexible the security. You have more flexible applications to be more efficient in cybersecurity. Right now, you can be more untrustful and stop thinking about the trust as a way to do the things more efficient, because that's why in the past maybe they given all the access, all the privilege in order to do the production, right? So right now zero trust is becoming a very important thing, because that type of trust in the past became a lot of problems right now. So right now we are trying to keep this concept of zero trust as a culture, as integrating in your companies, in all the enterprise aspect, also in the personal aspect. So I think that's very, very important, and that's why the integration of the cybersecurity could be an easy way to do the things more efficient and not as a barrier to doing things, because right now there are applications or more easy way to reach this type of culture of security.
Yeah, and I really do think it boils down to a culture. And at Beyond Identity, we believe that passwords are not going to exist within the next 3 to 5 years. And going back to what you said about credentials being a problem, you either have the credential or you don't. And if you have it, you can get into the system. Great. And there's all sorts of ways you can get a credential, by the book or on a stolen database, that kind of thing. I think that this plays back really elegantly into zero trust and kind of your original hot take, Israel, about the everyman thinking more about cybersecurity. It's not just a yes or a no thing. It's a culture. It's a state of mind. It's something that we share responsibility for, and something that, we just can't trust anything these days. So with that in mind, I am going to wrap up this episode. And stay tuned if you speak Spanish, because Israel and Nelson are going to do a follow-up episode in Spanish, which is going to be a first for this podcast and is very exciting. So thank you for tuning into this episode. We look forward to talking to you next week about whatever hot take pops into our mind. Thanks, Israel. Thanks, Nelson. We'll see you guys later. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.